The Asylum Ward Cannibals Who Fed Patients to Patients, Massachusetts, 1886. Prologue. Whispers from the Past. In the winter of 1886, deep in the gray stone hills of Massachusetts, the Blackwood Asylum for the Incurable stood like a fortress against the cold winds. Its brick walls, blackened by soot from the coal furnaces, towered over the bare trees of the countryside. Few outsiders ever visited, fewer still returned with stories. Those who did spoke in hushed tones of screams carried on the night air, the sharp smell of burning flesh, and of patients who seemed thinner each season, as though something inside the institution devoured them little by little. Rumors had long haunted the asylum, that the doctors were cruel, the staff untrained, and the patients subjected to experiments. But in 1886, whispers turned into legend, whispers of cannibalism. Part 1. Arrival of a Stranger. A young journalist, Elias Harper, only 25, was dispatched by the Boston Globe to investigate complaints from families who had sent their relatives into Blackwood's care, only to receive cryptic death notices weeks later. Some bodies were never returned. Others were sealed shut in pine coffins, with the asylum insisting they not be disturbed. Elias, eager to prove himself, journeyed to the small town that housed Blackwood. The villagers were tight-lipped. When he asked about the asylum, shopkeepers looked away, crossing themselves, muttering that, nothing good comes out of those walls. That night, at the inn, the innkeeper's wife whispered to him, "Greater than, if you value your soul, don't eat anything they offer you. The food, it isn't what you think it is." Part 2. The Wards of Hunger. Elias gained entrance under the guise of writing a sympathetic piece on mental health reform. The superintendent, Drive, Alistair Greaves, welcomed him with a smile too wide and eyes that never blinked long enough. He was proud of his progressive methods, strict isolation, dietary control, and experimental treatments. But as Elias walked the wards, he noticed how gaunt the patients were, their cheeks hollow, their eyes glassy. They shuffled in silence, clutching their bellies, their whispers carrying a single word over and over. Hungry. Meals were served in great iron pots. The stew was thick, dark, and greasy, with chunks of meat floating among turnips and potatoes. Patients devoured it with trembling hands, gnawing bones until nothing remained. Elias, horrified, thought of the warnings. Where was all this meat coming from? The asylum was remote, its food deliveries scarce, and the livestock pens outside stood empty. Part 3. The Forbidden Cellar. At night, Elias explored the asylum alone. By lantern light he descended into the cellars, where a foul stench clawed at his nostrils. He found hooks on the walls, stained with something dark, long dried. Wooden crates held bones, human bones, sawed and stacked like firewood. Some still bore teeth marks. In the far corner, he discovered a ledger. In Dr. Greaves's spidery handwriting were lists of patients' names. Beside certain ones was a single word. Consumed. Part 4. The Secret of Dr. Greaves. The next day, Elias confronted Drive. Greaves. The doctor did not deny it. Greater than, what better cure for madness, he explained, than to force the deranged to consume the flesh of their own kind. It is nature's law, the strong feed, the weaker fed upon. And besides, we cannot let resources go to waste. Elias's stomach churned. He realized the asylum was self-sustaining. When patients died, or were killed, their flesh was butchered, cooked, and fed back to the wards. Those who refused were starved until desperation broke them. Cannibalism was not only survival here, it was the treatment. Part 5. The Feeding. That night, Elias was nearly caught. While hiding in the shadows of the dining hall, he witnessed a feeding ceremony. A patient had died in the night, or perhaps been chosen. Orderlies carried the body on a stretcher, stripped it, and lowered it into a boiling cauldron while patients howled and banged on the tables. The stew was ladled out, steaming. The patients shrieked in delight, tearing at the meat, chewing with bloody lips. Their eyes glowed with animal hunger. Elias realized they were no longer merely sick, they had been turned into cannibals, trained to feast on one another. Part 6. The Attempted Escape. Elias tried to flee the asylum, but the gates were locked, the guards vigilant. Dr. Greaves knew Elias had seen too much. Greater than, you will write your article, Mr. Harper, he said, but you will write it for us. You will praise Blackwood as a model of efficiency. And if you refuse, well, there's always room for another ingredient in tomorrow's stew. Terrified, Elias planned his escape by night. With his lantern dimmed, he crept again into the cellars, clutching the ledger as proof. But the patients, feral and whispering, had followed the scent of warm flesh. They cornered him in the dark, their eyes wide, their mouths wet with saliva. Hungry, they chanted. The last thing Elias saw before his lantern shattered was Dr. Greaves watching from the stairwell, smiling as the patients fell upon him. Epilogue. The Silence of Blackwood. Weeks later, Elias's editor received a letter in Elias's hand praising the asylum's methods, recommending more funding for Dr. Greaves. It bore Elias's signature, but the handwriting wavered, as if written by a trembling hand. No further word came from him. Families continued to send their sick to Blackwood. And inside its walls, the feeding continued. To this day, locals claim that on cold winter nights, if you stand near the ruins of the old asylum, you can still hear the echo of hollow voices chanting from the dark stone halls. Hungry, hungry, hungry. Hourglass. This story, when narrated slowly with pauses, vivid detail, and atmospheric build-up, easily expands beyond 1 hour of chilling listening time.